Marketing hasn't changed, but marketers must. Time for chat now. So let's listen in with L'Oréal's UK and Ireland Chief Marketing Officer, Lex Bradshaw-Zanger, and Chris Babayode, the Managing Director of the MMA across EMEA.
A very warm welcome to today's Fireside Chat. My name is Chris Babayode, and I'm the Managing Director of the MMA in the EMEA region. And I'm delighted to be joined by the UK CMO from L'Oréal, Lex Bradshaw-Zanger. We've used a phrase of yours, Lex, for today's title for our chat today. Marketing hasn't changed, but marketers must. And so we're going to explore this saying by discussing the capabilities that marketers need to master in order to really thrive in a world of changing business models. So Lex, welcome. Please give us 2 minutes about yourself and your role within L'Oréal.
Hi, Chris. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me here. Great to be here with you. So as you said, yes, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for L'Oréal in the UK and Ireland. I've had a bunch of different lives before this one, actually. My first life was in the agency world in France, in the US, and then in the Middle East. Then I was at Facebook, and then I was at client-side McDonald's, actually, where we first came into contact maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And now I've been with L'Oréal coming up on 4.5 years. So the CMO role at L'Oréal is a little bit different. I drive the team of experts, really marketing functions that are deep expertise. So that's consumer and market insights, data science, media, digital, consumer care, innovation. And there's really a dual role for these expertise. One is actually doing their job and really being the experts in those functions. But the second one is really the digital and marketing transformation of the organization. So it's really our job to keep pushing the boundaries of what our generalist marketers do and to decide what is around the corner and to stay 2 steps ahead. And that's really not been ever more true than the last 12 months when we've seen massive changes in marketing, in the mix, in the channels, and really managing that has been at the core of what the team does.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And I think we've all been on a number of webinars where we've heard how people have managed through COVID and last year, and now we're looking very much looking forward. And I think if you were to share with the audience and share with us today about inspiration and lessons that you've learned either from the UK, from your colleagues from Europe, and even from the East. And so I suppose as a follow-up in terms of a question, what's partly behind what we're asking about inspiration, say from the East, is a question around technology advancements. I mean, do you see that technology as a solution provider and therefore helpful? And if so, how have you best taken advantage of it given your role within L'Oréal?
It's interesting to talk about looking to the East. Every couple of years we've headed out to China to look at what's happening there and really understand what's going on. And it's true that a lot of the future of marketing technology, the ecosystem is happening over there. But it's important to understand what we can copy and paste and what we need to adapt. The Chinese ecosystem is quite interesting because it's a very vertical ecosystem. Whether it's the Alibaba ecosystem or the Tencent ecosystem, they have everything from sort of engagement media through to influencers, e-commerce, logistics, payment, all the way through, and both of those. Versus our Western ecosystems are very horizontal. Google, Facebook, they're all in the publisher space, in the media engagement space. And Amazon is in its biggest sense, Amazon is in the e-commerce space. Although they're working their way upstream, it's interesting to watch what Amazon's doing, to really understand what they're trying to do, whether it's their Instagram copy, whether it's the acquisition of other platforms like IMDb or like Twitch, or more recently, the seismic DMP that they're acquiring to work their way up the value chain. So I think your question is, can we learn from the East, and is technology driving everything? Yes, we can learn from the East. There's a lot of things to copy and paste, but then we have to look at the consumer experiences. It's really the consumer experiences that are key, and thinking about how they evolve and how they come over to this side of the pond or this side of the world.
Right. And you've mentioned there with Alibaba and Amazon, so that moves us obviously into the world of e-commerce. So actually, it'd be really interesting for you to share with us, what does the L'Oréal e-commerce business look like in the UK, and how is that evolving given the nature and the history and the tradition, let's say, of a company like L'Oréal?
So, I mean, the last 12 months, our e-commerce business has exploded. Like most of the market, it's really been on an enormous growth trajectory. And we've seen that across all brands, across all divisions, this shift from offline to online, but that's partially because the high street's been closed, bricks and mortar business has been closed, and people have needed to buy. Each of our brands, each of our divisions work slightly differently depending on where they are. So we have about 35 brands that operate in the UK today. Of those, we have 12 that operate direct-to-consumer sites. So we have a direct-to-consumer business on the one hand, and that's a specific skill set. And then all of our brands work indirectly. So whether they're working with big department stores, whether they're working with pure players like Look Fantastic or Amazon, everything's changing, and we need to follow that. And really, it's about following the consumer. You know, if the consumer needs to find their product and they can't find it in the high street or they can't go out, then they're looking for it online. So we need to follow the consumer, understand what it is that they need, what services they need online, how they want to find the product, and adapt to them. And there's a lot of strange things happening in the high street. I mean, whether it's the ASOS and Topshop evolution, or Boohoo and Debenhams, or Amazon expanding its services, or the services that we offer on our own sites or on our partners' sites. There's so much happening in that space that we need to make sure we stick with the consumer, understand what they need, and adapt to their needs.
Yeah, and I imagine sticking with the consumer moves us into a sort of marketing and data capabilities, which is very much coming to the fore now in marketing. So let's spend a bit of time talking about capabilities, marketing capabilities, because I think if marketing has been let's say challenged at any point, it's been challenged the most in the last few months. I would imagine, one, internally within its own organization, and what's its function and how does it really deliver business value, and two, in terms of, as you just said, where's the consumer and where can we find them and how can we find them and best get to them. So if we talk about capabilities, and by this I mean I'm thinking people, I'm thinking resources and skill sets. There's a couple of quotes that I'd like to share that gets into a number of this question. So the one is that you've used, which is marketing hasn't changed, but marketers marketers must, as you've alluded to. But at the MMA, we've done some work and we've shared with you around organizational structures and the capabilities that modern marketing organizations need in order to really home in on their purpose and the mission of marketing. And in there, we use a quote that actually came into that research that we did, that marketing is no longer a function, but actually a collaboration. And it sounds like the role that you're doing there is very much a collaboration, bringing expertise together. So, how do you prepare, and how have you prepared your business, your people, your skill sets, your stakeholders for this marketing future that we're talking about today? And is it, generalists, are they dead? Is it all about specialists? And is there a difference in how you apply this business model to e-commerce compared to the model that you've had historically, although you've obviously grown your e-commerce business? So I think I've asked you 2 or 3 questions there, but yeah, just give us some insight into that, capabilities, modern marketing for the future, and the question of generalists and specialists.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with the generalist and specialist question. I think that's a great one. I think the future is a combination of both. It's a combination of generalists, because we need those people to be the conductor of the orchestra, to bring everything together, to bring the glue that holds all the specialists together. And we need specialists because marketing is getting more complicated. I think we used to talk about T-shaped marketers, one deep vertical expertise and then a little bit of knowledge everywhere. I've read recently that that's now become M-shaped marketers, because it's not enough just to have one expertise. You need 2 or 3. So I think that the M-shaped marketer is the future. You need a bit of art, a bit of science, and a bit of strategy. But then alongside that, you need all these deep specialists to really help you understand and manage the different channels. And it is the digital transformation. It's the e-commerce transformation. You're right. This is very much about collaboration. If we think about the e-commerce acceleration in particular, it's brought on so many more skill sets that marketing and commercial needs, and suddenly the boundaries of marketing and commercial are very blurred. As we go online, we need to think about format strategy and pricing and promotion in a very different way than we've ever done before. Suddenly our media mix for a manufacturer, for brands like us, is more complicated. We need to do top of the funnel, middle funnel, lower funnel. I think somebody said, I'll steal a quote, I think it's Benedict Evans, who said that performance media is the new rent. So we need to think really hard and be experts in performance media in terms of driving traffic. And then once you've done all that and the consumer's on the site, you've got to think about all the different interactions, experience, engagement on the site, the content, the way the site's built, the user experience. And then in our business, we use virtual try-on. We acquired a company called Modiface back in 2018 that allows us to do virtual try-on for hair, for makeup, these sort of things on the site. And then we've really exploded areas like live streaming, one-to-one consultation, or just online BAs. Now, as consumers want to interact, they need advice. And some of that can be done with technology, but some of that needs a human, needs an individual behind it to talk to the consumer. So you're right, marketing is very much becoming a collaboration. There's a lot of skills that are coming together, and I don't think we can expect a single or an individual marketing generalist to be able to manage everything, into the future.
And do you find that's great? And just if I could maybe expand on that one slightly, have you found that this collaboration or this transformation that you're leading, that actually that has accelerated in the last 12 months? Some projects that may have were going to take slightly longer or planned to be longer suddenly came sort of fast forwarded, or was it everything that you've delivered? And we saw as a public company, you saw your results recently and how well they've done. Were they already on the pipeline, or were they accelerated forward, or did you just how did you move forward with that in the 12 months of lockdown, let's say?
It's definitely a combination of both of those. Yes, everything has accelerated. All the things we've just spoken about, performance media, experiences, on-site content, all of that has accelerated. But I think we wouldn't have had the results that we've achieved if we hadn't already started on that journey. The group's been on a digital transformation journey for a number of years now. And it's the fact that we started all of these things, that we figured out what the right technology was or the right organization and started down each of those paths that enabled us to really accelerate. I think if we'd have been hit with a standing start a year ago, last March, then it would have been a lot tougher and we wouldn't necessarily have had the excellent results that we had in 2020.
Yeah. And I suppose there's an extension to the couple of questions and things you've been saying there, because there's implications here for sort of, whether it's generalist or specialist, but whether it's done in-house in terms of, talent and systems, data management, like I mentioned, or is this something that gets outsourced? And then is the insourcing, outsourcing, management, control, accountability comes into another level? So I've got sort of two questions in one here. So is there clarity and, let's say, simplicity in what should be in-housed? Is it clear, and what should be outsourced in your view? Is it clear? And two, how does leadership overcome the challenges arising from when things that maybe were in-house are now out of house, and maybe things that were out of house are now brought in? As you say, the leader the leader may not be the specialist in what's brought in house, but is accountable and responsible for it.
There are a bunch of things in your question there. I think there is this knowledge of how a leader manages functions, skill sets, expertise that they don't really understand. There's the notion of partners and internal and external, and I think those are all problems that everybody is trying to tackle at the moment, and there isn't a perfect answer. I think, if you think about the lines are blurring between in-house and out-house, particularly now in lockdown. We've all evolved so well to video conferencing that it doesn't really matter who you work for now. Everybody is almost at the same level. So I think the real solution is probably going to be a hybrid model in the future in terms of how people work. And at the end of the day, does it matter who their parent organization is? It's probably more about careers and people development. If you want to be a deep specialist in media or in some specific niche within data science, then you're probably better off in an organization that specializes in that, where you can learn from the best of the organization. But we're going to work with those people. And I don't think our marketing teams could live without their agency partners and vice versa. It's an ecosystem that works together. So my feeling is that we're probably going towards more hybrid models. If I think just about our media agency, for example, we have an internal trading desk, and we also have traders at our media agency Essence, and they all work together as a happy family. It's a peaceable kingdom where everybody works together and leverages each other's skills. For me personally, I'm really interested in these hybrid models. I've been interested before lockdown in terms of how we can get our agency partners sitting closer to us in our offices working together. And it's just been, as with everything, accelerated by the times that we're in.
Right. Okay. Cool. And then we've got a couple more questions as we bring this to sort of a close. I think you've mentioned it a couple of times. We've talked about capabilities and marketers. We've talked about insourcing and outsourcing and skill sets. But you've mentioned particularly about the customer. Where is the customer? What's the customer doing? That's how you're going to, react and work with them. So there's a lot been said about customer centricity. But there's also this growing reliance, there's also this growing reliance on technology and data to deliver this sort of, holy grail, this nirvana of one-to-one customer experiences and relationships. So is it, does customer centricity trump tech centricity, or does tech centricity, difficult to say sometimes, does tech centricity enable a much better way of delivering customer centricity?
I think that's an easier question. I think consumer or customer centricity will always trump everything else. I think in a world that is changing dramatically, we have to go back to marketing fundamentals and marketing basics, and that's understanding the consumer and making sure that we're delivering something that is useful, that answers a need. But you're right, today we need technology, we need data to be able to answer the consumer at scale and to give them what they need. So you're right, I think tech helps us, it enables the organization, but we need to keep humanity in our brand, in our communication. And so, yes, there are some experiences where it's tech enabled and, I don't know, where a consumer might ask a question and it's a bot that answers them. But at the end of the day, I think there's always a need for a human somewhere behind that. And when a consumer wants to speak to somebody, they need to find an individual and somebody that they can engage with.
Right. Okay. We've got it. Okay. So brilliant. We're in great shape. I just think now, given what we like to do here at the MMA, is this like a podcast? It's snackable. Someone could be walking somewhere with this in their iPods or watching it on screen. It would be great now to if I could ask you maybe to sum up the discussion that we've had today. I mean, we've looked at an outline of a way forward. Marketing hasn't changed, but marketers must, and you've highlighted some of that, the capabilities they need in order to thrive and survive. So it'd be great if you could just sum up and maybe within that, after that, summing up, but just a couple of, I don't know, key takeaways that someone listening or watching us now will be thinking, this is what I'm going to take from this session, the MMA and L'Oreal with Chris and Lex. Sounds like our own show.
Thanks. Okay, so marketing hasn't changed, but marketers must. That is really about the fundamentals of marketing. It's about the brand, it's about the consumer, it's about delivering on their needs. And so that hasn't changed in marketing, but marketers need to understand the ecosystem that they're operating in today. The media channels, the technology, the data, without cookies, privacy. There's a lot that marketers need to understand to still be able to deliver on those fundamentals. So I would say that's really important. What marketing is here to do, answer consumers' needs, build brands, connect with them, that hasn't changed. But the environment that we're operating in is changing dramatically. So I think that's the first piece. And then maybe you asked for a takeaway. It's maybe been a theme over our conversation. I think the takeaway is people first. People first, be it employees, training, empowerment, organization, but it's also people first from a consumer's point of view. We need to be consumer centric, not technology and data centric. They're not just data points. We need to be consumer centric and really understand what it is they're looking for and answer their needs. And I'm part of the Institute for Real Growth program, and that's all about humanist growth. It's about looking at all the stakeholders. And that's really it. It's people first. It's all the people, all the stakeholders in our organization, making sure we're putting them first, and then all the other decisions will follow.
Great. Lex, that's really been very illuminating, great insights. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your time. As always, really enjoyed it. There's probably a whole load more I could ask you, but we're fitting into a schedule here. So thank you very much for your time, those insights, and we will catch up soon. And thanks everybody for listening, for watching wherever you might be. And again, my name is Chris Babayode. I'm the MD of the MMA in the EMEA region, and I've been chatting today with Lex Bradshaw-Zanger, who's the UK CMO for L'Oreal.
Many thanks to Lex and to Chris, our moderator. Hearing insights directly from CMOs is really amazing.